Alright, so for anyone out there who's curious about any of the mods that I use, or how I get my game to look the way it does, here are all of the mods that I use in my Skyrim game. And there's 42 of them total. That's actually a condensed list. There are a few more, but I've sort of condensed them into certain groups. So anyway, let's get started. I'll explain each one as we go along. First off, we have a quality world map. What that does is changes the way your world map looks. You can choose from a few different presets. I went with the default map with less clouds, so it looks a little better, easier to see. Excuse me, easier to see stuff. Next, you have Apache Sky Hair. What that does is it gives you a lot of new different hairstyles to choose from. I think it's pretty cool because some of the default hairstyles in Skyrim aren't so great. These look pretty cool. Next, we have Apocalypse Spell Package. That adds a lot of new spells to the game. They're pretty balanced, so they're not going to be game breaking or anything, but they are going to be, sort of lore friendly, fair spells to use. So it's a good mod. Next, we have Behemoth the Feathered Dragon. When you run into Odavig in the main storyline, I'm sorry if I mispronounced. I think it's pronounced Odavig, the dragon. When you run into him in the storyline, he has a different skin. He's actually covered in feathers, and he looks a lot cooler than just a normal dragon. You'll see later. I haven't made that video yet, but we will see him later. He looks awesome with this mod on. Next, we have Better Distant LOD Waterfalls. What that does is, I believe, I'm not too sure on the LOD mods, but I believe what they do is they just make waterfalls look better at a distance, so they don't look as chunky or blocky or all that stuff. I don't know, I just people recommended me that I download that mod, so I did. Anyway, next is Better Vampires. Adds basically just redoes the whole vampire system in Skyrim. Adds new powers, adds the way you get new powers, lets you customize if you're stronger when you're hungry or well fed, or how much damage from the sunlight you can take. So basically, it's a vampire system redux. That's what it is. Next, we have Categorized Favorites menu. One of my favorite mods, actually. What that does is when you press Q, or whatever your favorite button is in Skyrim, instead of bringing up that nasty menu where you kind of have to scroll through and it's hard to find stuff, you get this whole full screen menu that you can see everything all at once, all items you favorited all at once. It's actually separated into categories as well, so you don't have to spend a while looking for which spell or weapon or shout that you want. It's very, very useful. Next, we have Cloaks of Skyrim. Adds a lot of cloaks into the game. They are found on enemies. You can wear them for aesthetics. That's basically about it, but they look nice. It's cool. Next, we have Convenient Horses. Very good mod. I add some new horses into the game. Also adds a horse whistle, in which you can just have the horse run to you, a la Twilight Princess, Epona, that sort of thing. They just run to you from wherever they are, so that's nice. Next, we have Craftable Scythes, which is a weapon mod. Allows you to craft 2 scythes. I believe they glow red and purple, if I remember correctly. They are a little bit overpowered, so I wouldn't suggest doing them until you've sort of gotten bored with the game and you just want to go around and kill stuff and be very strong. But they look pretty cool, I think. Next, we have Deadly Dragons. Adds adds a lot of dragon types into the game that weren't there previously. A lot of elemental dragons and all that. So if you got bored with just a few stock dragon types that they have in vanilla Skyrim, here you go. New dragons, more interest. Next, we have Deus Mons. Again, one of my favorite mods. It is a house mod at the base. Actually, it's not the base, but it's below High Hrothgar, basically. You fight a dragon to get in, and you get this giant castle filled with a lot of mannequins, blacksmiths, cooks, librarians, spas, waterfalls. It's got the works. It's an amazing house. Amazing house. Next, we have Enhanced Blood Textures. Just changes the blood textures to look a little bit better, a little shinier, a little more realistic. Next, we have Enhanced Distant Terrain. Makes terrain look better at a distance. Makes it so that it doesn't fade out as quickly, and you can see stuff farther away. Now we have Get Snowy. What that does is, if you're in a snowy environment, you actually see snow piling up on your shoulders and your head, which shouldn't happen before. You could be in a snow environment and it would be snowing and there would just be no snow gathering on your clothes. But now, with this mod, that happens. There's just a little bit of realism, which is nice. Next, we have Glowing Ore Veins, which is very useful if you like smithing. Basically, it makes all ore veins in the world glow, because before they were pretty hard to see, especially if you're running around at nighttime. But now they glow so you can see them very easily from very far away. Now we have Hectoral FX Raindrops Deluxe HR. long name. Basically, all that does is it makes the rain look a little better, higher texture, probably a small performance drop, but not too noticeable. Now we have high quality LODs. I honestly don't remember what this does. I was never really clear on it even when I downloaded the mod. I think it just makes things look better at a distance, but I never noticed a huge difference myself. You'll have to do the research on that because I don't feel like it. Someone recommended I download that. I was like, yeah, sure, okay, it's easy. So yeah, there's that. Next we have immersive Skyrim thunder. Makes the thunder, actually, excuse me, makes the lightning look better because thunder is just sound, but it makes the lightning look better, better texture. Now we have lush grass and lush trees, basically the same idea. They retexture the grass and the trees in the world to make them look better. Actually adds a lot more grass into the world. Now those mods do have pretty decent performance drops when you add them in, so make sure you have a pretty decent computer, or at least lower your resolution if you want to play with these on. Next we have Masters of Death. Rise of the Brotherhood. Adds some new Dark Brotherhood armor to make it look a little bit more like Assassin's Creed, which I do like, because before the vanilla Brotherhood armor, it's okay, but I do prefer this armor mod. It's nice. Also in the future, it's going to add some quests, but they haven't gotten to that point yet. Now we have Midas Magic. Once again, just like Apocalypse Spell Package, it adds some new magic into the game. I think it's a little bit inferior to Apocalypse Spell Package, but I figured, hey, why choose between the two when I can just have both, you know? Just have both. So there's that. Next we have new animations for Elegant Archers. One of the minor things that I really like. Basically makes your archery stance a little bit more Lord of the Ringsy. Think Legolas. When you are crouching, you actually hold the bow sideways, which I think is pretty cool instead of diagonally. Also, the way you run, if you turn into third person when you've got your bow out, looks a little bit different than running animation. So it's just an animation mod, just a minor thing, but I think it's pretty cool. Next, we have Proudspire Manor Dragonborn Edition. This is the house that I used before I found Deus Mons. It improves the house that was already in Solitude called Proudspire Manor. You can buy that if you so desire. Basically, it just adds more mannequins into the basement, adds some supply chests and all that, so you can actually be more organized. Just makes the house a little bit better. Not too different, but a little bit better. Next we have Real Snow. Makes the snow textures look a lot better. I believe it also leaves footprints when you walk over it, although that might have been Vanilla Skyrim. I just know it makes the snow look a lot better, and this one's actually very noticeable, so that's very nice. Next we have Realistic Smoke and Embers. Obviously retextures the smoke and embers to look a little bit better. So nice little touch. Now on the next column over, I randomly decided to stop going alphabetically for a few mods because there were some stuff that's not in my Skyrim Nexus, and I'll explain what Skyrim Nexus is in a second. But these are a few mods that actually you install differently. So first off in this column we have Opethfeltz. I'm going to say Opethfeltz. His ENB. Now I'm not too sure on the specifics of what ENBs actually are. I know they decide the lighting and sort of the blur effect in your game. I'm not sure what the exact specifics are, but it has a heavy impact on how your game actually looks, these ENBs. So before, when I started the Skyrim playthrough, I was using Sharpshooter's ENB because it had that nice depth of field, which a lot of people didn't like. I did, but I guess it got old for a lot of people. So I switched over to Opethfeltz ENB. Looks a little bit better. There's no depth of field. The textures and the lighting, I think, look a little bit better. So it's kind of a trade, a compromise, I suppose. I think people like this one a little bit better, so sticking with that. Next we have All-in-One Face. Sort of remodels the facial features of NPCs and actually all faces in general. Makes them a little bit less blocky, higher textures, just overall face redo. Next we have Skyrim Realistic Overhaul. This is a texture mod. Adds something like 2,000 new textures into the game to make it look a lot better than the Bethesda textures. There's also another one called 2K textures that I was using in the beginning of the playthrough. So you might want to check either of those out. They're pretty similar, honestly. Pretty similar, but either one's good. Next we have CJ Sweet FX. This is necessary if you want to install really a lot of ENBs. Definitely necessary if you want to install Opethfeltz ENB. So it's sort of a stepping stone to get there. Just adds the capability to actually get those lightings and the blurs and the textures and all that stuff. Next we have Project Parallax. Now this is a group of mods. What this is for every major hold you have, actually not for every, excuse me, but for Whiterun and Winterfell and Solitude and some other town. No, right, Markarth. Yeah, it does a lot of retextures inside the towns. So as opposed to the giant like entire game retextures like Realistic Overhaul where they strive to retexture basically the whole world, these mods focus on specific towns, so they had more time to go over specific, specific roof textures or floor textures or wall textures, that stuff. So specific stuff in each town had more time to be improved. So those are pretty interesting. There's about 4 or 5 of them, I think. You have to install them individually, but I did group them together because they're all part of Project Parallax. Very good group of mods there. Next we have Skill Interface Retexture, and this is where I start going alphabetically again. This makes your skill menu look a little bit better when you look into the constellations. Next we have Skyrim Distant Detail. Just like the LODs, I believe this makes things look better from a distance. Next, Skyrim Sun Glare V4 adds a nice sun glare to the sky. I think it's pretty good because before when you looked at the sun, it was kind of just meh. I'm just sitting up there, just burning. Doesn't hurt your eyes. Now, when you actually look at the sun, it does have a nice little lens flare, so it's pretty cool. Next, we have Sky UI, which is one of the most important mods, and I think it's actually the number one the number one highest rated mod on Skyrim Nexus. Basically, it overhauls the menu. The vanilla Skyrim menu was pretty bad. It was not very organized. It was hard to find stuff. It took a while to get through as well. But Sky UI sort of changes that. It makes it a lot more organized, splits stuff into better categories, makes it quicker to actually see stuff. You don't have to scroll through to see anything. You can just see everything all at once unless you have a lot of items on you. But overall, it's just a lot easier to find what you want to find. And it looks better too, I think. So heavily recommend that one. Next, we have Spend Dragon Souls for perks. This is not something I would recommend using, once again, during the main story, but if you've sort of, finished most of the quests and you figure, hey, I want to level all my skills up to 100, and you get to level 81 and you realize, hey, I don't get any more perk points. With this, you can actually use Dragon Souls as perk points to get more perks. So you can unlock stuff even after level 81, which is, for those of you who don't know, the max level that you can get to in Skyrim. Next we have Static Mesh Improvement mod, a very, very important mod. What this does is it sort of remodels a lot of models in the game. Sort of fixes clipping issues, makes rope look like rope, not so blocky. It sort of rounds out a lot of stuff too. So it's just like, it's hard to explain, but basically it just makes the models of miscellaneous items in the game look like they should. Less blocky, more rounded, just more accurate to how they are in real life. So very, very important. Next we have TESV Acceleration Layer. That's the Elder Scrolls V Acceleration Layer. It's a performance boost, not too noticeable, but it does usually increase people's frames by about 5 to 10 frames per second, depending on what your computer is. So it's not a huge difference, but of course 5 to 10 frames is 5 to 10 frames, especially when you're recording like I am. Those are very important. So that actually gives you a performance increase. So definitely install that no matter what computer you have. Next we have TKO 007 Skill Interface Retexture. Sort of the same as the previous skill interface retexture. Actually, basically the exact same thing. It just makes the constellations and the skills look a little better. Next we have XCE, Xenius Character Enhancement. A lot like the all-in-one face mod. It makes faces look a lot less blocky, increases the texture quality, just makes faces look a lot better. And last but not, well, yeah, it is kind of the least because I haven't used it yet, and I probably won't ever use it, but I installed it just for the hell of it. This is YY Animation Replacer. What that does is it changes the two-handed animation that you have when you carry a two-handed axe or a two-handed sword. Your character actually sort of throws the axe over their shoulders. So if you've ever played Fire Emblem, say, they kind of carry their axes like the berserkers do in those games.